Good evening, everybody. System Jock here with, I think, the 87th episode of the Apostle Obsonate playthrough as Ike Upscribe. We got through Lagan's Tomb, so that's going to mean, as far as the Lone and Level Sands are concerned, I believe that's where we're... Yes. I believe Messana will be the last location where we can get books, and then Maya will just give us a few other treasures which we may find useful, but certainly don't need as much as some of the others. So where previously we would have sent the Callagine off to deal with the evidence from the Suppression Bureau, the Suppression Bureau kind of bungled the job, so we're actually in good shape there. Really, the next little bit is going to be more about just collecting the last few tombs. I don't think it's likely that we will have another Port Noon location, but I want to be a little careful saying that because we will definitely be getting some secret histories from these books. Actually, the Atlas of Dreams is kind of interesting. I can't remember if this actually counts as a book or not. I think it's just a level 8 secret history, so we would... Yeah, we'll see whether or not we can read it. But one way or the other, there is the possibility that once you get to a high enough level, it could be that one of these books, by reading them, you get... a Port Noon anecdote, and so you want to make sure you don't have one on the table because because those are unique, you will potentially lose an expedition as a result. So we'll settle all that. But for now, I think we will just queue up the next expedition right away. So this is to Messana. A quietly prosperous village rests in the crook of the river, a surprising splash of green against the dusty land behind. The longevity of the villagers surpasses the natural. What are they hiding? And as always, we send our combination of Callagine and the Maid in the Mirror up front. Messana, where the villagers routinely remain hale and vigorous past their 100th year. They will resist attempts to pry into their secrets, and they may have curses at their disposal, if we can penetrate the desert to reach them. This kind of tells us what we should expect. So, Watchers, in this case, Moth will be helpful. The Maid in the Mirror can just kill them all, but generally I like to be stealthy about it if I can. We have not shed blood for the cause yet. In addition, the curse, so there's a number that those could be. That could be something that we need Lantern for, that could be something that we need Heart for, but I will keep an eye on it. It is the most likely thing that I'm going to have to add additional cultists for. And then finally, we know that we can get past the desert with Forge, so we can add, one of my... Why is Tristan here? We can add a Forge follower to deal with that. So we begin our journey to Messana, and I suppose the question is, yeah, we have sickness coming up, so I'll just stick to my plan. And nothing's happening next turn, so all right. The recent work is considered significant. I may yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain, although it doesn't look like we made that much. Cool, fascination. Wasn't expecting that, but that will help with the Perfect Frost. Oof. It's no good. That was all effort, no payoff. Let's use Glimmer. The battle rages on until the Seven Coils drowns in its own blood, at which point the narrative turns mystical and elusive. A seven-titled goddess arises from the foam of its blood. She is an armored queen, a serpent daughter, a key, a healer, a murderess, an oracle, but her seventh title is not to be revealed. So we have the formula Ophidian, which we'd already had. We've got a Dread, so I think while I do want to get rid of the sickness, I think probably now would not be a bad time to combine the Dread and Fascination. Doors of vision swing wide, a little darkness will mellow my light. Even Dread has its uses. I will now turn to the focus of Amber, so on the odd chance you didn't see the previous video, Omar, the Blaze, spent 7 years manning a lighthouse in Tyre, atonement for the extinguishing of a sacred flame. By the end of his stint, he was so terrified of fire that he could not stand to share a room with a candle. This work was written in partial penance. Omar claims that the Hour called the Watchman is both a god who was flesh, an hour who was mortal, and also a god from light, an hour who descended from the glory, but adds finally that the Watchman's origin is triple, that in essence he is Amber. Our expedition plans for the next challenge. It'll consume funds. I could add funds now, or I could send another follower. So we want to take a look at the curse. So heart or grail to suppress the curse. In this case, probably adding, probably adding a grail follower. Let's just add Saliba right now, and that'll probably take care of everything. I believe Saliba could actually take us through all three. Let's pay for the paints. And pay for the repair. The Cistern Witch should see us safe through the dry places, so we'll add funds. The funds are just in anticipation of the third challenge. The artist's reward. My recent work is considered significant. I may yet earn a living from this, but nothing is certain. So lots of glimmering, but we are still failing to make any money with it. We're at least getting cost of materials back, but it's not what we're used to with painting. Jesus. All right. The air is curdled now. I'm home again in this lump in flesh. Better, perhaps. In this case, as much as it pains me to do so, I am going to pay for the funds just because I have other things to do with the study verb right now. The Watchman, according to Omar, was once another hour entirely who ascended into the glory to escape efforts by other hours to send him nowhere. It may be that Omar's sense of persecution creeps into the narrative at this point. Certainly, it grows less coherent, and the last part is devoted to attempts to prove that eyes, eggs, and the sun are all in some sense conjunct. So, with enough time, the fascination and the bitter atmosphere will work well together, but there is a question as to whether or not we're actually going to be able to wait that long. So we have the Mantra of the Ascent. This is a new lantern lore for us. The Ascent of Knives is the bloodiest of the Watchman's tests. Those who pass it are dead enter the service of the sun in rags. Those living who pass it are a little closer to the glory. All right. So, okay, Season of Ardor's coming up, so I don't need to worry so much about Dread. Let's keep reading. I suppose the question is, do I want to read the manner in which the alchemist was spared, or do I want to go plowing into these secret histories books? So this is not actually a book to read. This is a tool to be used. So. I think I'm going to read The Voyages of Furnisham of Oriel. The impossible travels of a sea captain through the late Phoenician era, suppressed through recorded history. Those who can read it are said to disappear. I know I read that before, but I didn't read it this session. So, and again, this is just kind of on the hope we might be able to get a few more expeditions out before we go back to Glover and Glover. Okay, because I feel like I can afford. I feel like I can afford to pick up some notoriety. I'm going to send Enid on another run for burglary. I'm just trying to swell the pocketbook a little bit. I don't quite know what happened with the 10 here. It might be because of the expedition. The sun is setting. We look back across the desolation we crossed, and all the colors it assumes in the evening light. Night falls, stars prickle, the wind presses cold hands to our faces. Onwards. Okay, the icy atmosphere is going... Oh! I forgot to pay for paints. Expedition continues. We've got enough money, so we'll leave that aside. Recent work is considered significant. We just turned over on the turn, so we can take a look at what the potential challenges are. Oddly enough, we made more money on a painting we did not invest in than we have on the last few, and we got rid of some staleness. So overall, a good day's work. Now wait a few seconds. And order the subject. So another season of suspicion coming up. Again, I'm not too worried about that. The sick room grows close and stale. Time to get up. So in this case, I'm going to neutralize the fascination right away. We don't need to, but it's probably better that I just clear those threats off the board because I don't have the upgrades that that I normally do. Okay, let's read the book. That Voyages of Furnish Memorial, a travelogue of sorts. So this is, I think, one of the few books that actually has less to say when you translate it. Furnisham clearly visited the Mansus, sailing the lengths of the Painted River. He also claims to have traversed a sea of finest sand, to have dared the blazing waves of the sun's surface, and to have descended to an underworld ocean lit by lamps of black nephrite. Against the Watchers, the Grail seductions. Come closer, dear ones. We have something special for you. The world goes away. My follower has returned with their haul. Let's see what goodies. Oh, productive evening. We're sending Enid on another mission like that. This is something special. It may provoke a reaction. Okay. What did Porter get us? Well, he got rid of the staleness. Decent haul. But of course now we're just going to go full notoriety. Let's cash in on the reputation while we can. Should have an impact. Okay, and Season of Vision's coming up, so I don't need to worry about that because of the chilly atmosphere. And if we do generate a fascination, which is possible based on the books that we're reading, we just wait for the, we just use the dread. Fernisham's final voyage is to retirement on a peaceful island across the evening scene. Oh, this is going to be a Port Noon anecdote. Where identifies a spring whose waters will keep him safe. I will be forgotten, he declares, and this work my only trace. See? Port Noon is where the long go to enjoy the sea and the sun, to drink from the spring that makes them forgotten and to stay out of trouble. Mostly out of trouble. The stories you can hear in the Hotel Ciervo are golden dewed, quintuple distilled toasts to memory served straight up. So we will explore with this almost immediately. But for now, The air is curdled now. I'm home again in this lump in flesh. Better, perhaps. So this may protect us against fascination, but I suspect it may expire before we need it. Okay, let's go read the book, The Manner in Which the Alchemist Was Spared, a quasi-alchemical text in VAC. Making good progress on that, and I think the time has come for us to go back through the Peacock Door. In my dreams, I know the path through the glass garden to the Peacock's Door, the most admirable of doors, the door which shines like a mirror. Perhaps with the right resources I can pass it. The Peacock's Door reflects the mirror I hold in my sleep, and the mirror reflects the Peacock's Door. Already a sensuous shiver ripples its surface. It aches for fracture, and when it finds that satisfaction, I will enter. Their present pleasures will end ill for them. Perhaps they'll think it's worth it. Meanwhile, we can pass. Looks like there's a bunch of activity on the artist reward, but you can never really know on this one. Sometimes what you wind up getting is just a fistful of reputation. Oh, it looks like we made some pretty good cash though, and no staleness. Holy smokes! Of course, if I exclaim, holy smokes, this is the time that Callagine pops up. Grail's vigor will almost certainly preserve us from the curse. Like I said, Saliba's got everything on this one. Okay, season to suspicion, that's a non-starter. They're already looking into me. We're actually doing okay funds-wise, so I may want to consider doing these commissions, but... Still going to the War Museum. I dreamt last night of the War Museum. The hours have set wards about it and warnings before it, but they have left it open to mortal adepts who can prove themselves by reaching it. Perhaps they hope to inspire revulsion against the things that bred in the corpse of the sun. Those things are here still, always dying, never dead. They came from nowhere, the warnings say, and if they complete their work, the Mantis will be nowhere one day. There's no way I'm going to remember that I went through the War Museum, but... we do at least have the ability to tranquilize one of the dread. In 1782, Anel Verdier used this text as the basis for a presentation to the Academy of Sciences in Paris. He was executed in secret the following morning without trial. In the days of the Carapace Cross, when humanity lived in the dark and ate on its knees, humans could enter the Mantis like vermin. One learnt the arts of flint, the arts of shaping and remaking. Nice. We clearly robbed an occultist. My followers returned with their haul. We're just going to keep doing... or no, in this case we are going to get Valsine to do more repair work. Our power is stronger than the power that was here. The curse won't touch us. Now, I do want to double check that we don't need more funds. We shouldn't. Oop, worthless. I produced nothing of use or significance at all. I should be ashamed of myself. Public is as well. Oof, and 3 staleness for my trouble. I don't want to keep that dread around. I'm hoping we can finish this expedition before we wrap up tonight. Treasures lie before us. Right, Season of Ambitions, that's on time because we will need the Saber's Blood next. And we got a fascination for our efforts, so I was going to try and go through the Peacock Door, but through the black, the yellow, the red, the unwise mortal ascended to the shadow of the egg, the egg unhatching, and remained in its service. He may be there to this day. So we have the mysteries of making. So this is yet another intensity 14 lore. This is the highest you can get. The Forge of Days, the Menascate, and the Mandragard are gods from light. Mercury, silver, and gold are the seeds of the work. And here's their secret doctrine. So let's just, again, we can get rid of some of our emotional turmoil. We're not quite ready to do anything with the study verb. But we are ready to receive the treasures. So we'll go a little bit later just so I can see what happens. Long feast. Beneath the granary we find the deepest secret of Messana, an altar on which are displayed segments of an embalmed human body. Little of it still remains. The visitors must be have been feasting on this for years. Is it long flesh? That might account for their longevity. Okay, looks like we didn't make any money off of that, but hopefully we did get rid of some of the staleness. Well, we got fascination. Just as well we got past the Season of Visions. Didn't even get that. All right. Items of note are displayed on the walls. They might be trophies from unwise travelers, or they might have been possessions of the Long. There's no indication whether the Long was a willing victim, an ancestor, or a prisoner, and we'll learn nothing from the villagers now. A Greek inscription on the altar reads, "For the Flood." Alright, so again, I'm not too worried about notoriety. We've been able to get through it before. But we have a book. Two books. Okay, so the Songs of the Carapace Cross, the Sevenfold Slaying of the Seven Coiled, and a Kingsking Bodran. Bodran? I don't quite know how to. I don't know how to do the accent properly. In the deep forests, the monarch gave up the last thing they had to give, and so the tool was shaped to keep their land forever safe. Then, of course, an empire stole it, as empires do. So, lots of progress on this one, I feel like. So we're going to be on our way to Maya. I think before I do anything else, I am going to take that Port Noon anecdote and lock that in. So across the bright far sea, Port Noon lies. Exiles, monsters, and visionaries have long favored the waters around it. Perhaps we shouldn't get too close, but it might be useful to get close enough. So that's going to take a minute. I do want to try and figure out how I might be able to extend the life of the Callagine a bit. But, we're definitely, so obviously we're done the Lone and Level Sands, and it's nice that we have 2 extra Port Noon locations. Again, Port Noon does have an artifact that makes going to the Peacock Store quite a bit easier, so I'm looking forward to getting that. But of course, all of that will be happening next week, so it is time for me to say thank you very much for watching. As always, I tremendously appreciate the attention. I know this has been going on for a while, and I'm delighted that some of you who've been there from the very start are still stopping by. If you haven't done so already, please consider subscribing to the channel. Whether or not you turn on the notifications is up to you. The videos are always up at 6:30 Eastern Time, Wednesdays and Fridays. And of course, it does help me out if you leave a comment or give a like to the video. More importantly, not just that helps me out, but it is a chance to get in touch with and just figure out what you guys think. I tremendously appreciate that. But until next week, I hope you have an enjoyable weekend, and we'll see you on Wednesday.